Hi everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to the real life stories for OWise Breast. Today I am talking to lovely Lisa. So thank you so much for offering to share your story with us and with our community, Lisa. I always kind of start these chats in a very similar way, which is kind of over to you. And if you want to tell me about your diagnosis, just when it happened, how it came about, everything like that, whatever you're happy to share.
Yeah, of course, no problem. Thanks, Carly. Thanks for inviting me. So I guess it was a bit unusual for me. It was something very much not on my radar, which I guess that's the same for a lot of people, but not in my family. So I was diagnosed on the 22nd of August 22. I'd spoken to my GP. We were still a bit COVIDy then, I think. So there was I was doing online appointments with GPs and stuff. So I spoke to my GP and said that I'd felt something that just felt a little bit unusual on my right side. I wasn't too concerned because about 6 years ago, I did have a mammogram because I'd had some ongoing pain. But that was all fine. And I was told at that point that I had got quite lumpy breasts. I'd got cysts. So I was really not overly concerned. I just thought, okay, this is perhaps just a cyst, maybe changing shape, growing or something like that. But it just felt, I can't honestly say that it felt like a lump. It just felt like something was maybe a bit thicker.
Okay.
So she was fantastic, didn't ask to see me, just said, I'm going to refer you. I had been taking HRT. So, of course, that was a red flag to her and my age. I was 50. So, I was referred for the 2-week check, went in. It was an evening appointment and that was for a physical exam. And the lady said, yeah, it does feel slightly different to your left side. So I'm going to ask you to come in tomorrow for a mammogram and we'll go from there. Again, walked away. Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. Been here before, done this. I'm not concerned about having a mammogram. I hadn't then been called for my routine. I know that can be anything up to the age of 53. So again, wasn't concerned. So the next morning I went in, I had the mammogram. And that's when it all kind of changed. All got a little bit serious because I was then sent out of the room and then I could see other people going into the room and I'm thinking, they're looking at my images. And then I was told I need a ultrasound and potentially a biopsy. So again, I kind of thought, okay, this is great. They're really being very thorough here. Had the ultrasound. The radiographer mentioned this is the area that I'm kind of a little bit concerned about, and that sort of pricks every nerve in your body. You think, oh, okay, no problem. You carry on, do what you need to do. And then she did say, yes, I'm going to do a biopsy. You can come back for it, or I'll do it now. And I said, no, just do it while I'm here. Let's get it sorted. And she took 3 biopsies. And I don't know. I think I was probably a bit, is this really happening to me? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like an out of body experience. I was like, okay, let's just crack on. I felt physically sick.
So why did they do 3 biopsies? Was that from 3 different sites in your breast or?
Do you know what? I'm unsure. I think it was from the same area. But no, there was only one area of cancer, but I think it was all from around that surrounding area of concern. So the first thing I said was, I'm going on holiday next week. Can I still go? And then she was like, absolutely, you go on your holiday. I did say, I want to know the information. I'm one of these that need to know everything. Tell me everything. I that helps me cope. So I said, can you show me what it is that you've seen? And she showed me the image alongside the image from 6 years ago, and you
Okay.
could clearly see there was this white, really bright white sharp bit. So yeah, I went away. I was very upset when I told my husband, but I was kind of like, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. We're going on holiday. It was my brother was getting married, so it was a big
Oh,
family event
yeah.
overseas. But it was a period of time, and I'm sure you know yourself, Carly. You're not really in the room at any point. I was physically there, and outwardly to everybody else, I was me. But my God, I could feel myself losing weight, which isn't a bad
Um,
thing. But do you know what I mean? That whole nervous tummy constant.
yeah.
So
Call it
what
limbo land, waiting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess really, looking back, thank goodness I was on holiday, because I did, have my mind occupied. I was surrounded by all the people that I loved. You know what I mean? It was a brilliant holiday, a fantastic time, but there was just this nagging feeling in the back of my head, and my husband's, of course. So I got the email while I was on holiday that they'd got the results, and I thought, I'm going to try it on. I was thinking, because they had said, we will call you in irrelevant of the result. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna try it on here. Can I give you a call? I'm away at the moment. Would it be possible to? Because you just desperately want to know, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that of course that was a no. So I made the appointment for the day after we got home. Um, got back, went to my appointment, and I think I kind of knew by then. I talked myself into it. So yeah, went in, and I was told that I'd got breast cancer, and in an unusual way, the consultant said, "But you are my easiest conversation today," and I thought, and that has stuck with me, stuck,
Mm.
Carly,
So, yeah.
because I still think, how can that ever be an easy conversation? Do you know what I mean? Telling somebody they've got breast cancer.
Yeah,
So
and you've just heard that, and then they're saying that it doesn't quite
no,
validate everything that you're feeling in that moment.
absolutely not. And I understood what he meant, what he was kind of saying was, I've told people worse things today, but that's not, I'm not really bothered about that. That sounds awful. But, and of course, I didn't know everything there was to know. I was told it was slow growing, it was small, I'd need to have a lumpectomy, I could have a mastectomy if I wanted one. But their recommendation was just to have a lumpectomy, and then we would go from there. It was a hormone receptive cancer, very highly receptive for estrogen and progesterone. I never say that right, I'm sure. And
A hard one.
and it was HER2 negative. So I was being told that these were all positive things. Which of course I did, at that time I didn't know. I was t- what I was told, which is what I really wanted to get across in this chat, Carly, was I was told that my cancer was found incidentally. So the area that I'd felt was feeling a little bit weird was actually a normal hormonal change in that breast, but the cancer had been found much deeper. It couldn't be felt. I had no symptoms that would say that it was a breast cancer. So I feel very fortunate that I got to have that mammogram, because I wasn't actually then called for my first ever routine mammogram until 12 months later. And basically, to kind of, cut a long story short, I guess, being told that it was small, slow growing, then having the surgery. I had a sentinel node biopsy as well. I was kind of expecting, right, okay, well, they're going to take it away. They're going to check my lymph nodes. They've already said that they look fine, but they need to check the histology. And then, the biggest shock came that it had gone into my lymph nodes. So they were kind of, oh, we didn't expect that. And I said, well, I certainly didn't expect that. And that was that was a time where everything felt very dark. I kind of thought, wow, what is this all about? How has that happened? Um, it, I was really frightened. I thought this is really awful. I then had to go through the full body scans, bone scans. I had to have a full axillary clearance, which when also I'd never had surgery before, Carly. I'd never been poorly. I'd never really spent much time in hospital, never had an anaesthetic. So I was petrified both times.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, then from being told that to being told you're going to have more surgery was just such a shock. But it went really, really well. The results were great. It was still only that one lymph node. So I was then treated with radiotherapy, 5 days, which was great because I was expecting to be having to go for much longer. Onto hormone blockers, so I take tamoxifen, and then recently, from January this year, I've started to have Zoladex implants, the injection. And it's funny, when I kind of went to see my oncologist after you've had your surgeries and you're getting stronger, she said, actually, Lisa, your lymph node has done what it's supposed to do. So I kind of looked at it in that sense. Then it wasn't almost like the cancer was trying to take over. My lymph nodes were trying to remove it, but they kind of do it and perhaps leave it at this point. Do you know what I mean? So so that was really the journey that I went on. I ended up with a seroma. I had some cording, so there was a few things along the way, but I still kind of count myself very lucky. I had the oncotype test, so I know that having chemo wasn't going to make a huge amount of difference to me, so I chose that not to have chemo. And yeah, really, I suppose that's the story of my kind of diagnosis and treatment plan. I've been supported incredibly the whole way through with a fantastic team at the hospital. Also, I also knew a few ladies locally that had been through breast cancer, so that was the very first thing that I did when I was diagnosed, was reach out and say,
that's amazing. Yeah,
talk to me about the reality, tell me what was your story, how was your journey, and they were all very, very happy to do that, and that's something I continue to do with others now. I think it's really important that people know they've got
we're doing it today.
Yeah, exactly. And the Instagram community, it's fantastic. And knowing that actually probably at any time, day or night, I could reach out to somebody on Instagram and say, well, I'm really struggling here. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's fantastic. And what Phil did with the book,
Someone's survival guide.
Thank you. That's
Someone else's survival guide.
menopause head coming in there.
We spoke about that earlier.
Absolutely. What he's done there was fantastic, and I've met lots of other fantastic, fabulous ladies through that book as well.
That's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, for me, the mammogram was what has completely changed the situation. It could have been very different for me. Really, really important. And I guess, the fear of it coming back is something that everybody that has been through any form of cancer will have. But again, I think having a network of people, and actually probably on most days seeing somebody post something about recurrence or how they're feeling, or not nice, inspirational, lovely quotes, that kind of thing, that's what I'm all about now. It's all about keeping a really positive mindset. I work really closely with breast cancer now. I'm supporting them on one of their projects called Here For You. So that's so that's where they're looking to have that one kind of door in to the Breast Cancer Now services, and somebody at the end of the phone to say, let's talk about your situation and let's identify, which area of breast cancer now will be the most supportive for you. So I'm helping them with that project. And I'm a public health volunteer, so I go out and do self awareness talks on breast cancer. So that I did.
You keep yourself busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's really important to me because even though I know it's helpful to the general public and anybody that needs to, well, everybody needs to understand about breast cancer, don't they, really? It also helps me because it keeps me level-headed. I, regularly am able to kind of check in, have a look through the presentation, and remind myself of that. If ever I feel like I'm going a little bit like, oh, what if, okay, let's go back to the basics and start from the beginning, and let's think about breast cancer and how it starts, how it progresses, what I can do to help myself
Yeah.
back. So
And that brings you back to kind of like not
yeah,
spiraling as much and stuff. And
yeah,
it's really good that you found that helps.
yeah, really, really does help. And physically, I'm really well, so that's good. I've got full mobility in my right arm because I know that can be a
Yeah.
challenge with the axillary clearance, but no. So I do feel well.
Did you do your exercises kind of religiously after and stuff? Do you think that
I
made a
did.
difference? And
Without a doubt, I did them 3 times a day, every day. For I couldn't tell you how long, Carly, but for a really long time,
really
till
long
till
time.
I got back to the gym, I think, and then I kind of incorporate. So I swim. I don't really do any heavy lifting at the gym. It's not for me, or anything that's high impact. But I love going to aqua aerobics classes, and swimming and that kind of thing. That works for me, and it's the way that
Right.
it's the way that it gets me to the gym. If I thought I had to go and do some sort of dance class or something where I have to stay in a routine or lift heavy weights, I wouldn't be interested in going. So that's another thing that I've kind of found is find what works for you.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? And it's kind of incorporating movement that doesn't feel like punishment, right?
That's
It should be enjoyable, and you're more likely to keep it up. Lisa, you mentioned some cording
yeah.
that you experienced. Was that straight after your surgery then? And
No, it was quite a long time after, and I just kept thinking, wow, there is a real pain when I lift my arm, and it was almost like bit like an electric shock, but it also felt like there is something stretching that feels like it might snap. So I lifted my arm and I also lifted my my right breast, and I could see these 2 lines, and I thought, oh, that looks unusual. But I had already read about things like cording, so I didn't go into a full panic mode. I messaged my breast care nurse, and I was referred for physiotherapy. So again, really helpful, and I have no problems there now. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I still that area of my body still hurts, and
yeah,
it perhaps always will. I don't know. It's still very tender. I can have really random aches and pains in that area. I know from a CT scan that I had last year, I've got radiation damage under my ribs, so I know that that's going to be tender at times. So I
it's
suppose what I'm
hard.
trying to say is, yeah,
It can be very hard to kind of decipher what is what, isn't it? And what fit, and that can lead to worry.
yeah,
So it's always good to check these things. And obviously you knew about the cording, so you went and you got that physiotherapy and you got that sorted out. But I'm with you, like, because of having the lymph node removal, and so sometimes it'll be like, oh, is that a normal feeling or is it not? And you do it takes time and trust to kind of know your new normal, right? We always say, like, know your normal and check for
yeah,
lumps and things like that. But when you've had cancer,
yeah,
it's about getting to know the new normal and the new aches and pains and maybe the new lumps, and check. Like, I've had lumps ultrasounded that were necrosis, and now I know, yes, I can feel it, but I know it's necrosis. So
yeah,
it's, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? As you say, you need to understand and get to know what that part of your body now feels like,
Mm.
and when it doesn't feel quite right. I mean, I'm you know, early days, I think I was probably contacting my breast care nurse every other day. Oh, this has happened, that's happened.
Yeah.
Is this normal? But now, I don't know. It's really weird. I kind of miss contacting them, but it's a great thing. But it's you build such a fantastic relationship with your surgeon oncologist and breast care nurse. That I thought, oh, I'm not going to see you for a year now. Oh, that's a shame. But I do kind of stay in touch. There's a group of ladies. We all were treated at the same hospital, so we have like a WhatsApp group as well.
Yeah.
So we can all chat. And some people don't want that, and that's absolutely fine. Some people, I've had a few friends that have been diagnosed since I've had breast cancer, and some really want to be part of the breast cancer community and part of support groups and stuff. But others, it's just sort of like, no, that's happened. It's now in a box. It's gone away. I don't want to talk about it again, and that's absolutely fine. That wouldn't work for me because of the way my mind works. I'd think, oh, I'm ignoring it. That means it might come back. Sounds,
Ah. See,
but that's
everyone is completely different in how they approach a diagnosis of
totally,
cancer,
totally,
and that's such an important thing to say, isn't it? And actually, it's about
definitely.
what works for the individual, what works for you, and we're all different. We're all so varied, and I think that's why it's good to have these conversations so that anyone watching will be like, oh yes, I do resonate with that actually, or
Yeah,
because it, it can feel so daunting otherwise if you
definitely.
don't kind of hear others talking about things that maybe you're experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's you need to be so mindful as well, because when you're first diagnosed, I know, because I am a really curious, verging on nosy person, um, I just needed to know everything there is to know. And of course, I stumbled on stuff that frightened the life out of me.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to be really careful to understand that it isn't all pink and ribbons. Absolutely not. It's there's a lot of awful stuff that happens to people that have a breast cancer diagnosis, and if you're not ready to read that sort of stuff, you've got to
Mm.
be so careful what you look at. So I really did restrict myself in the start to Macmillan, NHS, and breast cancer now. But then I guess as time's progressed, I've become more curious and follow more people on Instagram, really, in a sense, whereas I'd like to support as much as understand other people's experience and journeys. And also having the support group on Facebook that I've got, and also the WhatsApp group, no, knowing all of these other people on social media and all of this other information that's available at your fingertips, I then feel that I'm in a position then to be able to help somebody that's reaching out about something they're not sure about, and say, have
Mm.
you read this? OWise Breast is brilliant for the blogs and that kind of thing. I've used that so much, and I
Well, that's
felt
so
that it
good
was,
to hear. Yeah.
yeah, I felt that it was such a valid source of truth that I've shared that with others as well. But yeah, the blogs and everything I found really helpful. But it's about being really careful what information you choose to look
Mm.
at, certainly
But
in
you know
those
what?
early weeks.
You saying that about kind of that you have done a deep dive and you know it's not all pink and ribbons and things like that. That's obviously incredibly important. It is incredibly important to educate ourselves on, having had a primary diagnosis, what we should be looking out for when it comes to secondary. But it also it makes me more sad about what that doctor said to you, what you mentioned earlier when he said this is the easiest
Yeah,
conversation I'm having today,
yeah,
because yes, we all know early diagnosis is important, but at that stage, you didn't know it spread to your lymph nodes. Then you find
absolutely.
that out. Then you don't know at that stage if it's spread anywhere else.
Yeah,
So I think there is such a power in what these professionals do say in those moments, and like you said, that stuck with you. That was it. Matt, I think you said
It
he said
it
that,
was
and
it
then
was
and
yeah,
then it was a woman that said to you, well, I'm not defining, but I think you mentioned another doctor said to you about the lymph node
yeah,
doing that.
extra.
That was a lot more of like a positive
Yes,
thing. I think, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm even saying about this. It's more just like the doctors have got to be mindful about what is said
totally. Yeah,
and realize that in that moment, it's not a good conversation. It doesn't matter how many conversations he's had in
yeah,
that day.
yeah.
He's talking to you and he's just told you you've got breast cancer and your mind has gone, what? Like,
Excuse
it,
me. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And I had one more kind of second experience with that doctor. He didn't do any of my surgeries, and I didn't see him again after this second point. But I walked into the room for the results of my sentinel node biopsy and my lumpectomy, and he said, "I don't think we've met." And I thought, "Oh my God, you're the doctor that told me I'd got breast cancer." I appreciate that they see so many, but unfortunately for me, there were two really negative kind of negative conversations I had with this one particular doctor. So yeah, it wasn't great. I appreciate they have a lot of people to see, but I was like, yeah, you have met me. I know who I'll never forget you.
that's
Do you
it.
know what I
That's it.
mean?
And I think it
Yeah,
is just knowing, I guess it's important that who knows who will be watching this, but if anyone in that chair that is sitting there telling someone they've got cancer, I
yeah,
think it's really important to know that, like, no words, no words. You can't guarantee anything in that moment. Yes, of course, we really want to hear things like your prognosis looks good, that,
yeah,
this to us is going to be treatable. But it's like when a professional told me, when you tell your children, don't give them any guarantees. No one can give a guarantee in that moment. Cancer is a tricky thing.
yeah,
And hopeful stories are amazing. And I'm so glad that mammogram picked it up. But just for a professional to be mindful of, like, the weight of words of someone knowing they found out they've got cancer. It's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, definitely.
the
And
power of words.
oh crikey, yeah, and I guess that you touched on telling your children there that and waiting for test results even after the surgeries was probably the toughest time of this whole kind of journey. Really, was having that conversation. But I had the conversation and I made sure, and my children are adults, so I had to get them all to my house
Yeah.
at a particular time. So they were all together there at the same time. So I didn't have to say it twice. I didn't want my husband to have to say it, because I think listening to him tell them would have been harder for me. Selfish again, but it really would. So, and I told them the truth. I told them, this is everything I know. And I have been completely open and honest with them throughout. Um, I still have to have an annual CT because there was a little something picked up after they found when I had to have the full body scans. I had something picked up on my hip and something on my lung. The hip thing is arthritis. Yay, another age ailment.
Yay.
Yay. And the little kind of lesion on my lung hasn't changed in probably about a year. I get another CT in September, I think. So yeah, it's
It's
just keep
really good. It sounds like your medical team are very, very kind of
incredible.
on it with you, and yeah,
Yeah,
listening to you, which is great.
really
And
good.
then,
After those first two initial blip, I mean, I did change. I was able to use my medical insurance. So when I had the second operation, I chose to go privately, and I've built a really great relationship with the people in that hospital. And as I say, the other kind of patients that I've met along the way. However, what I will say about that first surgery that I had at the NHS, I could not fault them. Absolutely amazing. I'd never had anaesthetic before. I think I was more frightened of that, to be perfectly honest.
I was terrified
Yeah,
of the anaesthetic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Am I
I think
going to come round?
this is really, really common though, because a lot of the time you get a diagnosis of cancer, you've never really been a patient, you've never really been, you
No,
know, under a medical team. A lot of the
no.
time, I think a lot of people go into it thinking, I'm at the healthiest I ever thought I was. Like, so
Yeah,
it's all of this stuff is new, and it's really scary.
yeah,
So I was
yeah,
the same.
really.
The anesthetic terrified me. Then it was lovely.
Yeah.
The next couple of ops, I was like, come on, give me that old thing. Let's go to sleep again.
Exactly. I was exactly the same, and I never forget. She was so lovely, the anaesthetist. That very first time, and she said, You're going to have the best cocktail you've ever had in your life. And that was the last thing I remember. But then when I was coming round, I was asking for this cocktail.
That's so funny. You're like, can I have it now? They were like,
Where's the
Lisa, it's
cocktail?
done. It's done.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
yeah,
You mentioned earlier that you found some exercises helps you, and that knowing, that doing your own research, that reading into, knowing, educating yourself on breast cancer
yeah,
has really helped you kind of with your fears. Have you done anything else? Has anything else helped? Because I think fear of recurrence is such a big, it's so big
yeah.
for so many people that finish treatment for primary breast cancer. So have you found, you also actually mentioned community. I think that's a really, really, really powerful thing to help. I'd love to hear what's helped you.
Yeah. So I'd say several, like you say, you've hit the nail on the head. The educating myself, following a really great community, knowing the right people to listen to, and to watch their videos, that kind of thing. I think is it Liza Reardon? I think
Yes.
she's fantastic, and I listen to a lot of her podcasts. I think one of the is it going to be the biggest thing? I'm not really sure, but I guess alcohol is a huge thing that I've really tried to become far more mindful with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ashamed to say it. I am absolutely a child of the 90s, binge drinker of the 90s, you
Yeah.
might say. So, not want to drink every day, but when I did go out to drink, I'd drink too much. Simple as that. And that's just how I've been throughout life. I've always thought, I'm never doing that again, but you do.
Yes.
And that's something that I'm really trying to get hold of, I guess. I did the dry January the first year after diagnosis, and then I've continued using that app. And what that app tells me is, have I drank too much this month? How many units did I have when I went out? And don't get me wrong, there have been times where I can't remember how many units I've had because I've had too much. You have those blips, but
Yeah.
that's something. Another thing on top of walking, going to the gym, I've radically changed my diet. I'm far more conscious about what I eat now. But yeah, I'd say that's the only kind of fly in the ointment, is getting to
I think,
grips with making sure I don't overload my organs by drinking far too much in one go.
but also you're on medication that puts you into the medical menopause, right? So
Yeah,
I'm in the surgical menopause, and I 100% see a pattern with when I have some drinks,
yeah,
my symptoms are worse. So
definitely.
that is something I have seen. Hangovers are so much worse in the menopause. So I don't know if you know Rosamund Dean, if you've come
Yes.
across. Yes. So she has
Yeah.
a book, before she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she wrote a book on mindful drinking. So yeah, I love everything she shares about all of that as well. And I think that these little tweaks or big tweaks, like you said, radical changes to your diet, that cancer feels so out of our control in many, many ways. You get the diagnosis and your whole world just shifts in an instant, and you do feel completely like swept along this cancer path.
Yeah.
And taking some control back with things like that is, I think, a really powerful thing to do. And yeah, researching and understanding how different things maybe impact on us or make us feel worse. And everyone's different. It's just, the alcohol thing I think is an interesting one, because I find not even to do with cancer, just the menopause symptoms are
definitely
worse.
without a doubt. I whenever I've had any alcohol, even if it's just one glass of wine, I can already feel the heat rising, and I think, is it really worth it? It's that kind of feeling. But yeah, so I really am trying to be far more mindful around alcohol. But yeah, I think like you said, it's being able to control what you can control, because you can't control. You feel out of control when you've been diagnosed. And I know people say it's a journey, it's this, it's the other, but actually you're just in a process. You've been told you've got breast cancer. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And it's just kind of going along on yes, I guess that kind of journey until you're finished, until your treatment plan is finished. But you can't control that. That's just something that you have to do. So whatever you can do, where you feel you're able to control and you're in charge, that's kind of helped me. I needed some kind of area that I could really kind of control throughout this whole process. And I think also that's where the volunteering comes in there as well, because that's something, right, I need to make something really positive out of this shitty situation. So let's do what I can to raise awareness, raise money when possible, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that is huge though, and that is a huge thing that has helped me deal with fear of recurrence, is also doing that, kind of helping others, supporting others, and in turn it does help. It just does. It helps you process, like you say. There's a lot to process, and processing of these big things takes time. But again, you mentioned earlier about how some people just are like, nope, it's in a box and it's done. And that is completely valid too. I think that is, again, it goes back to it also different, and what works for someone just doesn't. And I feel I can immerse myself in the community. I feel I'm in a strong space to do that. But there definitely have been times where I've also needed to, Breast Cancer Awareness Month sometimes can get very, very noisy. Sometimes I'll have some time to, take a step back at that point. So I think it's about knowing ourselves at a deeper level after going through something so huge as a diagnosis, and honouring that, isn't it? And honouring what we have the energy for, what we can give. And if we need to take that step back, if it gets too much, if we get triggered by people having reoccurrences or whatever it is.
That's right, completely agree. It's knowing when to say no and when to hold back from certain things as well. You can like you say, with the community, you could be involved in so many things, but I think it's about knowing how much you can give. I mean, I work full time, so it's balancing that as well, and just not letting it completely take over. But yeah, it's lovely to be part of a community that there are opportunities where you can raise awareness, you can collaborate, just as you and I are, that kind of thing. It's a great space to be in, probably one that you wouldn't have chosen to be in, but actually,
we always say exactly, worst club, best members.
Best members, yeah, absolutely, yeah, couldn't agree more.
Oh, Lisa, you are an amazing, amazing woman. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and share your story. And I know people watching will appreciate everything you've said and shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carly.
And hopefully I'll see you at something soon.
Yes,
and
that
we'll
will
meet in person.
Yeah, that will be fab. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.